Let's take a breath together. And feel ourselves grounding down into the earth as if we were a tree rooting. And in this rooting, I feel that presence right here inside me, all throughout me, in every cell of my body, in every breath I take. There is no escaping this because that is all there is. That is who I am. That is what all of creation is. And it ripples through me and it ripples through all. Because that is the nature of that one. Ever expanding, ever becoming more. That is all there is. And so I am that and all are that. And in this knowingness, I speak my word that this rooting that we've done is like a tree. The strength of the roots, the strength of the trunk, and all the branches, the many branches that reach up and out every moment, growing and becoming more, each an infinite possibility of what can all be in this world. Because all of those possibilities are each one of ours. Everyone has these infinite possibilities, and they reach beyond what we can possibly imagine, and we can step into that and become that. That is our nature as well. And this tree always grows, this tree always reaches, and so does each part of creation. No part is left out. And I am grateful to know this. I'm grateful to feel this in my own body, the rippling of that energy inside me, that rooting that allows that reaching out and up to happen. And I'm so grateful to know the truth of who I am, who all are, and what that infinite nature is. And I release this into the divine mind that is the maker of things to happen. I say yes to that. And so it is.
Let's take a breath. This whole year, our theme is growing deeper, rising higher. And taking that time to go into deep in so that we can blossom forth more and express more and rise higher. And so the first 4 weeks this month, we are looking at the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. And I'm going to bring my buddy Ernest out here. This is Ernest Holmes, and I'm going to put him over here. That's an almost life-size version of him. I think he was 5'2", and that picture was taken in the late 50s at the Asilomar Conference Ground when he was relaxed, styling in the late 50s style. He wasn't a very stylish person, but anyways, he wasn't into that. But anyway, so that's Ernest, or as we lovingly call him, Ernie. And so, yeah. So our theme today is choosing possibility. Choosing possibility, right? Not the, oh, this is what's going to happen, but possibility. So the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind go like this. The thing itself, which is Ernest's take on God, but doesn't use the God word because it carries so much, stuff for so many people. So he calls it the thing itself. And then the way it works, what it does. And all 3 of these chapters have been about it. Yes? It. Learning about what it does, what it is, how it works. Today, this 4th chapter is about us. It's how to use it. Right? How we can use this infinite presence. Ernest would always say there's a power for good greater than ourselves, and we can use it. Yes? We can use it. So in order to use it, we must first understand it. We must understand its nature and flow. See, in order to use electricity, we have to understand it, right? In order to use the law of aerodynamics, it's a good thing to understand it, yes? I've got an airline pilot in here, and it's not what we want it to be. It's not what we hope it is what it is. Right? The law just is. The law of aerodynamics, law of electricity, the law of spirit is just what it is. The truth isn't what we think it is what it really is. And so that's why we take the time to learn about its nature, not so we can bend it to our will and our way. I want it to work this way, but instead say, how can I align with that? How can I flow with that which is already being this? So we spend 3 weeks studying it, releasing old beliefs and superstitions which have kept humanity trapped in often inaccurate ideas about the actual nature of this infinite thing for millennia. Yes? You know what I'm talking about? Some of our fellow human beings are still stuck in that. Some of us right in this room are sometimes still stuck in that. I remember I've been in religious science for 10 years. I did fabulous spiritual mind treatments, and one day I was paying attention to my prayer and what I was doing, and I realized I was praying to something out there to bring my good over here, which is not what we teach. That old, conditioning from, 14 years of Catholic grade school and high school was still operating in my background. So it's clearing up all this stuff, clearing out all those old beliefs and stuff about the actual nature of this infinite thing. And as we realize we are dealing with a power that is infinite love, expressing through an impersonal, intelligent, and creative law, and that you and I, are individualized expressions of that oneness. We are a point at which this infinite possibility shows up as us. That's your neighbor. You're God, individualized. You're this infinite possibility that has taken the time, space, and energy to be you, who have the potential and possibility of creating in the same way. Then we can lift ourselves out of bondage, out of lack, limitation, and stuckness, created by fear, ignorance, and superstition, into a greater experience and expression. Not just the experience, not just the, oh yeah, I know about that, but an expression. I'm expressing it. I'm living it. Susan Kibbe, where are you? There. When I came in, she says, do you smell like chocolate? And I said, I am the embodiment of chocolate, so of course I smell like chocolate. It wasn't me, but... So we want to have a greater experience and a greater expression of this infinite nature by embodying it. A greater expression of the freedom that is at the heart of life. So the first understanding that we need in order to use this power is that it must flow through us in order to manifest for us. Yes? Ralph Waldo Emerson said, we are inlets and may become outlets for the divine. We are inlets. In other words, that presence is always here. Can we let it out? Can we let it flow through us? And the flow through us is directed by our thoughts, by our thinking, by our conscious or unconscious thinking, which directs this flow both in direction and in volume, in what we call by using what we call the law, which is the infinite mind in action. And we have the ability to individualize this law in our own lives. In fact, not only do we have the ability, we are. We always are. We're always doing it, often without conscious awareness. Ernest said, every religious scientist must be a practitioner. In other words, somebody who actually lives and applies this teaching. Otherwise, they are asleep at the switch. Right? You have the switch. You have the key to all possibility opening up in your life. Are you using it? Or do you just sit there and go, yeah, I got a key. I'm going to put it in my pocket. I'm going to leave it in my dresser drawer. The real work we do in this teaching is to awaken more and more and more, and align ourselves with the highest thoughts about truth, capital T truth, about ourselves and about the circumstances of our lives. What's the highest that I can bring to whatever's going on in my life? And then so deeply and thoroughly that we embody the divine nature within ourselves. I've got a bunch of Ernest quotes today. He said, there is some power in every thought. Okay? Some power in every thought. But there are some thoughts where all power resides in its fullness. The transcendence, the spiritual realization. When we can bring our thoughts up higher than just looking at what's right in front of me here, trying to solve the problem at the level of consciousness that created the problem. When we can lift up from that, we move into a transcendence. And he said, they are thoughts that have risen with conscious union with the eternal, above and beyond the field of conflict. Most of humanity lives in a field of conflict. We judge this, I like this, I don't like that. I'm in conflict with this, I'm not in conflict with that. We live in that field. And he says to lift above that. We align ourselves with the highest thoughts of truth about ourselves and about the circumstances of our lives. So we are called to control our thinking and bring it into line with not the appearance of reality in front of us, but the capital R reality that is really happening all around and within us. When we understand the powerful creativity of our thoughts as directors of infinite energy, I'll say it again, we are directors of infinite energy. I was listening to a song this morning that said, the human mind is a broadcasting machine. We're directors of infinite energy. When we understand that, we will be more mindful of what we're thinking. If we want to see the opposite of this, just go onto social media anytime right now and notice the conversations, much of which are way out of alignment with the divine nature we all are. Breathe. So to truly and wisely use this power, we must transcend all the stuck places of limited human thinking, the conflicts, the right-wrong rants, and lift up. He says, now the transcendence must not deal with wrath because God isn't angry. You got an infinite presence of infinite love. It's not angry. It's not upset at anything or anybody. The transcendence does not deal with disease because God isn't sick. We're not trying to fix disease, right? We're trying to lift up to knowing that place, embodying that place, expressing that place where disease doesn't even exist. Where there's just all the life energy, the health, the wholeness, the vibrant aliveness. The transcendence does not deal with impoverishment because God isn't poor. The transcendence does not deal with unifying things because God is unity. We deal with these things, and while we deal with them on their own level, we hold that level in place and create 10,000 more devils. When we start to try and fight it and fight it and fight it and fight it, we just create more of a mess, yes? We see this in all sorts of things. I'm not going to go down that path. Trying to fight or change things on the human level is like trying to shoot the villain on the movie screen instead of working at the level of changing the movie we're running. What is it that I'm putting in front of this infinite light, pure light, that doesn't care what I put in front of it and is projecting it out into the screen of my life? What is it that I'm running in front of that movie, in front of that projector? We have to be able to look at an appearance that seems out of line with what we know about the divine nature and deny its reality. It has no actual reality. It's like darkness has no reality. It's just simply the absence of light. And all we need to do to deal with darkness is not fight darkness, but just bring light, yes? And there's no fight that takes place between the light and dark. You know, if we were to turn off all the lights and, cordon off all the windows, we would have an absence of light here. And all that we would need to heal it is no battle, just flip a switch, take off the coverings in the windows. In our teaching, we use tools to apply this idea. Because it's one thing to know about that. Isn't this a nice idea? How do I apply it? How do I live it? How do I embody it? Because we only truly know as much as we can prove by demonstration. Yes? So I can watch all the videos and read all the recipes about how to bake an apple pie, but until I actually do make an apple pie, bake an apple pie, I haven't demonstrated that I know how to bake an apple pie. Yes? So would you, if you were taking instructions on how to bake an apple pie, would you want it from somebody who's read a bunch of recipes and watched a bunch of videos, or somebody who does it on a regular basis? Yeah, that one. Okay? This is why Paul said that faith without works is dead. We can have faith, we can have the knowing, but until we manifest, until we're doing something with it, it's pointless. So two great tools that we teach, if the mouth doesn't run that all together, are visioning and spiritual mind treatment. Visioning opens us to transcendence, we were just talking about. It opens us up to listening to a mind greater than ours. I'm sorry, but yes, there is one. It's mine. To listening to a mind greater than ours. And spiritual mind treatment aligns our thinking with those higher ideas very powerfully. If you want to learn more about those two ideas, we have a wonderful class beginning on February the 8th that our own Linda Bremer, right back there, is going to be teaching for 6 weeks on spiritual principles and practices that covers all that stuff. You can register for that online. There's information out on the walls of the center. Ernest talks about what would be a technique of spiritual mind healing. And I love this little description. He says, it is merely the formation of words to conform with an idea. What's the idea we're holding? What is the idea that we're holding? Because we're forming words to conform with that. To conform with an idea, of course, that harms no one, and is that transcendent idea, a higher idea, and with the insistence, not the wishing, not the hoping, the insistence that these words are true until nothing in our own mind, our own consciousness, rejects what we said. Until we're totally clear. You know, this is where we get our foot off the hose that the universe can flow through us, the infinite energy can flow through us, to where we simply know this truth and allow it to move through us. And then he says if we're doing this work for somebody else, then we identify this knowing, this idea, these words with that person, place, or thing. And that is all there is to it. That's how he says. I love his little simplicity. That's all there is to it. Yeah, there's a whole world there. So the 5 steps of treatment begin with contemplation of the infinite presence and its nature, high above and beyond the appearances. Yes? High above and beyond the appearances that are challenging us, and then recognizing our oneness with that infinite oneness. That I'm not just some lowly worm of the dust sitting here on this little remote planet and hoping that the big guy in the sky or in the dome over the planet, is looking down at me and will grant me a wish. Okay? Not that. But we recognize that we are one with this presence of this infinite oneness, this infinite possibility. We're one of that. We get to play with it. Isn't that fun? Ernest says we begin by identification through contemplation to identify ourselves with that which is beyond us, but which really is already within us. I was listening to a song yesterday that said, all my dreams are waiting for me to come true. All my dreams, all these infinite possibilities are waiting for me to come into alignment with them, for me to come true. It's all there. Where am I? This thing that is beyond us, but really is already within us, but hasn't yet come out of us in a kind of reflection or expression. We stretch our imagination by gradually identifying ourselves with that which up until now has been way beyond our experiences. We stretch our imagination. I picked up a little card today. I have these little manifestation cards that somebody gave me. And this great modern mystic, Winfrey, Oprah Winfrey, said, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe. What are we believing? What is the vision we are creating? Are we creating are we creating a vision of 4 more years of struggle and terribleness? What's the vision we really want to create instead? Take a breath. And you'll have to unplug from all the fear-based media in order to start to hear that vision, to hear that little voice within, to say, what is it that wants to really manifest through me? So we are dealing with infinite possibility, but we get so entrenched in the limited vision of what we currently know and the limited possibilities we see from that limited perspective, that it's difficult to see beyond this short horizon that's just a little bit ahead of us. And just as the people who were first introduced to the idea that the earth was round and orbiting the sun could not grasp it. How could this be so without us falling off? Because their understanding did not include the law of gravity. You know what? Not only are we orbiting the sun, but right now, we are traveling at just a little bit under 1,000 miles an hour with Earth's rotation. Right? Buckle up. While we're also traveling at 66,000 miles an hour as we orbit the sun. Meanwhile, the sun is orbiting the galaxy at 483,000 miles an hour, as it takes about 220 million years to orbit the galaxy we're in. And the galaxy? Well, it's moving at 1.3 million miles per hour. And you thought you were sitting still. If I had stood up in a church, let's say a Catholic church 500 years ago and said that, I would have been labeled a heretic and burned at the stake. And yet we today know that that's really what's happening. There's possibilities far beyond what we know, horizons far beyond what we already know. Looking at only what we already know, we see no other possibilities, even while living in a universe of infinite possibilities, which calls us to the question, if I can use this infinite power, what will I use it for? How will I use it? You know, we joke about people who are new to this teaching oftentimes use it for what we call the 3 Ps, which is manifesting palaces, princesses, and parking spaces, or princes. In other words, a wonderful home, a nice relationship, and good parking spaces. And it's a wonderful thing to start with. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great place to start. It's training wheels to apply. But there's so much more that's possible. Yes? Ernest said we can demonstrate a dime if we need one, and heal an ache if we have one. All are good, but in what he called the banquet hall of heaven, what I'll call the field of infinite possibility, there is something greater, something far, far greater, a more free, more joyous, more loving whole life available. We can go to the infinite ocean of possibility with a thimble or the biggest tanker we can imagine. Choose. Which one do you want? So I'm going to suggest 2 spiritual practices this week. Number 1, if you're new to this teaching, or if you're rusty with this teaching, creak, sign up for the class and learn how to tap into this infinite possibility. Number 2, if you've been in this teaching and know visioning and spiritual mind treatment, expand your use of these powerful tools. Practice stretching your imagination and demonstrating greater good. Are you willing to play with one or the other of those possibilities this week? Yes. Great. And the class, by the way, is available. There's a fee if you want to get certificate for it. But it's also available on a pay-what-you-can basis. We don't hold anybody back because I don't have enough money right now. So breathe. I want to close with a quote. This is not from Ernest Holmes. This is from a guy named Lewis Carroll. Alice laughed. "There's no use trying," she said. "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare say you haven't had much practice," said the White Queen. "When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast." And notice that she didn't say, "I've thought about them." I've believed them. That's where we start to manifest things, is when we truly believe it, when there's no opposition in our mind, that everything starts to flow through. We have an affirmation. Say this with me. I align with infinite possibility, allowing greater good than I've ever imagined or known to flow into my life now. Say it again. I align with infinite possibility, allowing greater good than I've ever imagined or known to flow into my life now. So it is. Thank you.